Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Avenue A. I'm your host, Kelsey Bentz, and happy Friday. We made it, another long week. I hope that everyone is hanging in there and taking care of yourself because there's a lot going on right now. And so, I hope that everyone is taking care of themselves and hanging in there as best we can. I'm really happy to be here today for another episode. We have a really special guest, and I'm excited to introduce her to you. So I will say a little bit about how I know her. Her name is Melissa Crespo. So Melissa she's from Connecticut, and she has Dominican, Puerto Rican, and Chilean roots. She's a New York City-based director of theater, opera, and film, and most often directs world premieres. She's also a producer, dramaturg, and playwright. As a director, Melissa has developed work at Labyrinth Theater Company, New Dramatists, The Lark, and more. As a playwright, Melissa co-wrote Egress with Sarah Saltwick. It received the Roe Green Award workshop production at Cleveland Playhouse last spring and will have a world premiere production this fall at Amphibian Stage. She's currently the editor for 3 Views on Theater, which is a new online theater journal. And Melissa has served as a 2016 to 2018 Time Warner Fellow at WP Theater, Lee Hughes Directing Fellow at Arena Stage, Lier Directing Fellow at Second Stage Theater, and is an alum of the Drama League Directors Project. She's a usual suspect at New York Theater Workshop and received her MFA in directing from the New School for Drama, where she is now a faculty member, aka she is super badass and awesome. A little bit of context, Melissa directed the musical that I was in just this last spring. We closed in March at NYU, and the musical was called Promenade. So Melissa was the artist in residence for the Tisch spring semester. And so she directed our production of Promenade, which was, in my humble opinion, a smash hit. We got really great reviews, and it was kind of a magical experience because we sort of closed the production right in the nick of time. Like the next week, everyone was sent home for quarantine. So it's kind of like the magical show that came right in under the wire. So I'm super excited that she's here today, and without further ado, hi, Melissa.
Hi, Kelsey.
Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So I've just been thinking this whole 5 months or however long it's been of quarantine so far that I'm so grateful that we were able to complete the run of our show.
Oh my God. As you were saying it, I was like, yeah, you're right. Because people were just starting to maybe wear masks, like the last show.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there wondering what's going to happen. But luckily, we finished.
We did. And we finished strong, I think.
We did.
It was such a great experience. And I don't know if you know, but I had Presley on the show last week from our cast. Yay. And her and I were talking about, there she is. Hi, Presley. Her and I were talking a little bit about just our experience at NYU and how we both sort of had a tough time finding our place within theater there, and how when Promenade came along, working with you and working with that cast it just felt like it clicked and it fit so well. So I just want to say I'm really grateful for that experience because you were an extraordinarily generous director.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, from the minute that I walked into the audition room, I mean, you were giving me laughs left, right, and center. And
Girl, wait a minute. You need to own what you did at that audition. Okay, for your audience, this girl here, I don't know which way you are, walked in like she owned the building. And I was like, who is that? Like it was a master class in auditioning, and there was no question. So, and like everyone in the room with me on the other side of the table would agree with me. So you made my job very easy.
Thank you for saying that, because auditioning truly has been the thing that I've worked the hardest on and is the scariest. I think for a lot of us it is, but Thank you for saying that. It's very
Yeah, I
nice.
mean it. I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. It was great. That's
And
what we want. We want actors to come in owning the room and making our lives being like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about that part. Done. So that's what you did.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited to have you here, and I think you have such a breadth of knowledge, and I'm excited to
Oh,
pick your brain on a few things.
okay.
So let's jump right in. I'm wondering, how has a failure or maybe apparent failure set you up for later success? And do you have a favorite failure of yours?
So I've been thinking about this question because in my mind, with the way I think of failures, they are like the toothpaste or some kind of uber practical gift you got at Christmas or birthday that you didn't want when you were really wanting like a Corvette or something. The thing you didn't know you needed, but they're only useful if you use them. You know what I mean? So like failure, like apologies are only useful if you make the changes after, if you take action to reflect on why you messed up and keep building and learning so that they don't happen again. And the nice thing about failure is that, especially in the theater, it's like no one died. We're all still here, and most of the time, and you can always get better, and then there's a new day. So, because I was just reflecting on my own quote unquote failures, and I think I wouldn't be who I am today without them. So I think there was a dark period where I, felt like I was not at my, like the director that you met in Promenade. I don't think I could have been that director the year prior.
Wow.
Yeah, I had learned, I had a rough year, and because the business really spits you up and chews you up and spits you right back out.
It'll get you.
Exactly. And if you don't just take time, like I actually took 2 months in the summer, I had no gigs, and I did a lot of me time and reflecting and writing and just kind of put myself in a timeout. And I was like, okay, I gotta fix this. And it worked, I think. So yeah, I think every failure is useful, or it should be anyway.
So you think the important part of failure is the reflection that happens afterward?
Yeah, because it's hard to do it when you're in the middle of it, obviously.
Right.
But I have even, I had a particular show where this one actor just did not like me. Like no matter what I did, she refused to get on board, at least to pretend in a professional way that, she and I were okay. And after every single trick, I just was like, all right, well, I can't force it. I just got to write it off and keep it moving. And then what I did was my stage manager and I were really good friends. And I called her up and I said, hey, can you please tell me what you saw and give me feedback? Like I hurt my feelings. Like tell me, I want to know what to do because this has never happened to me before. I mean, I've like, you can't get along with everybody, but like the disdain that she had for me was alarming.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And I could have easily just wrote her off and not, but I'm like, well, something, I had to have done something and I had to take ownership of that. I wish I could have gone to her, but I don't think that would have even been an option because I tried. Actually, I did try. And then I went to another friend who wasn't even in the show. And I'm like, is there anything who I work with a lot? And I was like, I was really, really like, okay, people tell me what I need to fix so that this doesn't happen again. So I think it's up to us as artists, for people that really examine the world, and that's our daily practice in order to create art and put life on stage. We have to do that work on ourselves. So that would be my biggest lesson from that.
Well, I really appreciate, your reaction and your reflection to that situation, because I think it's it's really easy, especially I can imagine in sort of as the director in a place of power, to be like, well, this one person doesn't like me and like I'm doing fine with the rest of the cast, so it
Yeah.
must be on them,
Yeah.
which very well may have been the case, but I just really appreciate that mindset.
But I did do some learning.
Experience with you, I think it probably was too. But do you know what I mean? Like you could have just written it off, but instead you really like were thoughtful and you accepted the fact that like maybe there was something that you could reflect on too. And I think that's what makes us human, and that's one of the things that I think makes you lovely to work with, because it is such a give and take with you, and it isn't like that with a lot of directors. I'm sure you know that.
It's funny because directors don't really get to work together a lot. So sometimes we forget the way others work.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So I actually one summer, my mother had just gifted me her old dining room table because she moved, and I had never had a dining room table before. So what I decided to do was I invited 8 directors over to the house who I knew didn't know each other, and I had a potluck, and I only allowed 30 minutes of theater talk, and then I was like, okay, now we're not allowed to talk about theater, we just get to talk about ourselves, and it was really fun.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because we don't get to work together. It's such a solitary, kind of deal. So, did
you experience anyone in that room who seemed like drastically different from you, or who you might have?
Well, I knew them, but they didn't know each other.
Okay, so you were the common denominator with all of them. That's so interesting.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
I've been wanting to do it again, but hopefully when things get back to normal, I can.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, what do you do? Oh,
love this question. I am a Virgo, so we love perfection and details and lists. I am the consummate list maker. The minute and sometimes I'll have like 3 versions of the same list. I'll have if I'm feeling really overwhelmed, I'll make a list of everything I know I have to do, and then I'll break it up into the days that I need to do it.
Ooh, smart.
Because it's impossible to do everything at once, and some things are priority over others. So I usually always have 2 sets of lists at all times, which is kind of insane, but when you're a freelancer and you have multiple jobs, like I teach, I direct, I write, I produce, I'm doing all of these different things.
Yeah.
So I have my computer. I like the Microsoft To Do app, and then I'll have my notebook because I like crossing things out. It's very satisfying.
Okay, so you have one virtual and one hard copy. Oh,
yep.
Interesting.
Because especially when we used to go out into the world, it syncs with my phone, and I could easily look at it. But
yes, smart.
And maybe I didn't bring my giant notepad with me, but I still do both. Because the Microsoft To Do app has this very satisfying loud ding when you complete the thing. So I need a reward. I'm like, and I used to do those adulting stickers, and I would gift myself one. You gotta have your own kind of perk.
It's all about the reward. It really is. Like even getting like a gold star still, like that'll do it for me. I'm like, it feels like I'm in kindergarten, but like if I got something done and I get a gold star, I feel accomplished.
Yeah. So that is the main mode of attack.
So getting it all out of your head and onto a sheet of paper is helpful.
But then at the end of the day, forgiveness. It's like, you know what? I've been at this for 10 hours. I'm not going to, I need to get some sleep, or I need my eyes twitching. Literally, I have to shut the computer screen. It's like, it's no one is going to be happy with me if I'm not a healthy human. So
that's the truth.
And I think the pandemic is doing that for a lot of people. It's forcing us to slow down. It's forcing us to think more. It's forcing us to call family and reflect. And it's like a giant timeout for everyone.
It is.
And get a good night's sleep because we're not traveling. So, And I also am a big proponent of allowing myself, okay, I'm only allowed to work on this one thing for 2 hours. And then I either have to switch or I can go like have a dance break or work out or cook or something, you know? Because if I think of the whole day as this one thing, it's just like too much.
Yeah, I was gonna ask a follow-up question. Like, say you are, in the middle of your day and you have all of these things that you have to get done, or, in the before times, say you had like a full day of like different rehearsals and things you had to do. What do you do like in the middle of that when you all of a sudden feel like this is too much, but you sort of have to keep going, like there's no option to like take a nap? Like what are your like sort of little things that you do to sort of keep yourself going and intact during those long days?
Yeah. I am a big believer in physically picking up your crap and moving to another room or area of the room. Sometimes even just a shift in perspective, literally. I like I literally will work on every surface of my house or apartment, depending. I'm at my mom's house right now in Connecticut. So that's just that'll give me a boost. But also, and this might come with age, but don't procrastinate. It's just not worth it. I actually had, I used to be when I was in undergrad, and grad school really taught me to just sit down and do the work and get it out and do it. And I actually just 2 nights ago, I was working on a project that came up very suddenly, and I had a migraine, so I was like, it physically hurt to look at the screen, but I knew something told me I had to keep going. And I thought this reading of a play that I was supposed to be in on, that I'm directing, was canceled, and it wasn't. But I had almost finished my other work, so it didn't mess me up to have this 2-hour thing suddenly thrust upon me.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
I've
But
definitely.
if you hadn't have finished, then you would have been screwed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or I've also accidentally, not on purpose, but now I kind of do it, give myself the wrong deadline and make it earlier. And then I'm a week ahead and I didn't realize it.
You're like, oh no, why can't I have an extension? And then you're like, oh wait.
Yeah, you just got to trick yourself sometimes.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah. I have so many different things because I do a million things at once because I have to. So
I mean, you are the definition of really being your own boss in it's like a bunch of different realms. So you really have to like keep yourself in line.
you know what actually is what saved me in this pandemic financially?
Wow.
Issa Rae, who I love and is a queen, always has said that the key to financial stability is different streams of income. And I didn't realize what she meant until the pandemic came and all my gigs got canceled. And then I still had my teaching. And, that's wasn't hard for me to switch to the virtual realm, and I still had that paycheck coming in.
Yeah.
And then because I had already had I had a little bit of stuff also on the side, that took bigger precedence and started paying me more. So it was like the loss of my directing, luckily, didn't impact my wallet. So
That's a fantastic. And that's, I think, a really good lesson because it's hard, like being artists, this. That's why you have all these different facets that you are skilled in. But I've been thinking about that a lot as I come out of undergrad, just being like, okay, I have this degree in acting, which is great. And that's, what I want to do. But I also feel like I have a lot of skills, like in other areas. And so I've just been really thinking like, yeah, like how can I, this show is something where I was like, okay, this is sort of a facet of my career that I can kind of like capitalize on right now. And it's not a source of income, but it is just really cool and fun to do. And sort of like one of my only performing options right now.
yeah.
But yeah, I just think that's very inspiring. And it's I think a food for thought for us all, especially young people coming out of undergrad, when we're thinking about how we're going to make our living as artists.
Yeah, I think, and this is sort of a segue into your next question, because I was thinking about that a lot, is, you know, don't ever let anyone tell you you can only do one thing. Because I was told that when I was a younger person and in grad school, and, you know, thinking, oh, I can only be a director. That's ridiculous. And the more people I talk to in my own work in this pandemic, you know, it's like, we're all learning the virtual sphere. We're all having to pick up these extra skills to make ends meet, but that's how it can always be. And you just have to make yourself invaluable anywhere you go, because you never know when you're going to get a phone call to do that thing again. Because, you know, you have to pay rent, and it might not be the thing you really wanted to do, but it's going to help you pay your bills. And that is no laughing matter.
Yeah, that's the true tea.
Yeah.
So you said you have to make yourself invaluable everywhere you go. Can you talk a little bit more about how to do that?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you, it's the kind of thing that was instilled by my grandma, who, you know, was an immigrant, came here from Chile, taught herself English, eventually opened up her own store. But, you know, she was cleaning offices and bathrooms when my mom was little. But it's like, I'm cleaning bathrooms, but that toilet's going to be the best clean toilet you've ever seen. And you take pride in your work, and you're the best at it.
Yeah.
And you never know what that's going to lead to. For instance, you know, when I got out of undergrad, I was immediately had the fortune of being the alum Lee Hughes Directing Fellow at Arena, and the, you know, assistant directing on a show is always different depending on the show. But it's like, if you want me to get your coffee, I'm going to make sure it's exactly what you want. And, you know, maybe you'll let me take your notes, and then maybe you'll let me do something else. And that's what's happened to me in my career is I've really tried to do my very best in everything. And luckily that has panned out. For instance, my relationship with Sarah Rule, I met her at Arena Stage in 2005. And that relationship has been one of the great sustaining forces in my artistic and personal life.
Wow.
But you know, she's asked me to produce for her, not only direct. I've met so many people through her. But if I hadn't, you know, been my best self when I was meeting her at that time, I was 21. You know, I didn't know anything. She wouldn't have continued to talk to me. You know, so it's just like, you just never know who's watching.
That is so true. And I think what comes to my mind when hearing you talk about that is just the idea of trust. Like, if you really show people that you are an all-around great human doing any job, then people start to trust you. And then they, you know, if they have other opportunities that are a little bit outside what you might always be doing, you know, like you're a director, but you also produce and you also do this. And, you know, as you were developing your career, I'm sure people were just trusting you to sort of take on these different roles. And then, you know, you were what's the word? Consistent. In that. And I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
It's been very interesting. And because of her, I also take mentorship very seriously, and, you know, want to repeat that example, because she's been so good to me. So I want to be that to other people.
That's wonderful. Well, I think you certainly were to our cast. I mean, it was so heartwarming to me, and it kind of took me aback, you know, on I think it was maybe closing night, where you just told the cast, you know, like, here's my contact info, and, like, you know where to find me, and, like, if you need me, I'll be there for you.
Yeah. Oh my
like
God.
That,
yeah.
I have to tell you, it really meant a lot, and it's not something that I've really ever heard said to a cast like that before. Like,
well, you guys are also pretty special.
I know, it was a cute group. Group. But yeah, it was that kind of feeling cared for and feeling seen like that, especially from, you know, the team. And when you feel like a kid, and then there's like these awesome professional working adults saying that. It's really impactful. So I hope you know that.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad. I mean, yeah, that's the whole point is I'm your teacher in 1 minute and then I'm your colleague the next. So that's the hope.
Yeah. That's how you bridge the gap between, school and the real world, I guess. Is there any advice that sort of college students on their way, or arts students more specifically on their way into the industry, should ignore?
I think, and I probably wouldn't have said this. Oh, thank you, Martin. I worked with him in Portland. He's a Portland guy.
I know, we were like mutual. It blew my mind when he told me he knew you.
Yeah, he's great. I think that this pandemic is going to keep us all in place for a little longer than we would like.
Yeah.
And in a good way, I think it's going to force everyone to get to know their community a little more. So you don't have to go to LA. You don't have to go to New York. You can do theater and thrive and have the life that you want outside of those big cities if, don't feel like you're missing out. I don't know. That's actually my hope. That's my secret hope, I think, because I think it is really nice being in Connecticut and not having to deal with New York. And what if I could do theater here? I don't know. Who knows what the future holds? I don't know if they should ignore going to a big city, but consider it anyway.
Yeah. I think I share that hope, because I grew up here in Portland, and Portland has a fantastic theater scene, but it's not super sustainable, like full time. That's sort of the experience that I've had here.
Yeah.
And if it were, I think it would be a whole different ball game for a lot of people. Because there's a lot of Portland actors who are here for a while when they're young, and then they ultimately outsource to either New York or LA. And I think that's probably the same, in other cities where they have a great regional scene, but it's just not quite enough to really support you. So yeah, I share that same hope.
Yeah, maybe those regional theaters will hire more local as well. So I don't know.
True that. Okay, now for my favorite question. Who is someone that is not in your network that you wish was, and how would you go about getting them into your network?
Oh gosh. So I want to be her when I grow up. Liesl Tommy. She is just so amazing. And I have so many friends in common with her. I have so many mutual friends, but I've never ever spoken to her and or had an opportunity or an excuse to. And if I would, and then I should probably just reach out to our mutual friends, but I'm just too chicken.
I know. It's scary.
It is, but she exemplifies the thing I'm talking about in terms of just, she's a theater director, she's a film director, she's a TV director, she's an all around badass, and she's kind. I've never heard a negative thing about her. She's an example. I think she's just an amazing person, and I would like to be her when I grow up. So that's all. Yeah, I would connect with her via a mutual friend.
Yeah, it's cool that you have this network to where the person that you want to be when you grow up is sort of like one connection away.
She's an arm's reach away. I don't know why I haven't done it yet. If you're watching, Liesl, I love you.
I love that.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about the theater industry and the arts industry in general is that there are so many of us, and it's such a big world, but also such a small world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the connections that you make. I don't know, the spider web of sort of connections is really inspiring to me. And like, I love how like she's who you want to be when you grow up. Yeah. And you know people who know her, and that's just, I don't know. It's like exciting.
It is. that's why I'm like, I guess that's why I haven't really forced it, because I'm like, we're going to meet and it's going to happen. And it's going
And
to
I
happen
live
when
for
it's
those
supposed to.
natural. Yeah, I
Yeah.
live for that.
Yeah.
That's nice. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
I
you,
am so
Kelsey.
honored that you would take the time to be on with me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so proud of you. You're making the most of a really crappy situation, and I think it's a real great example for the rest of us. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's very kind.
Yeah.
And for everyone watching, if you want to find Melissa online, you can find her on
Oh,
Instagram.
here I am.
That's the right tag, right, Melissa?
Yeah.
Melon Crespo. And then Facebook, Melissa Crespo. And of course,
All my stuff is private
www.melissacrespo.com.
except my website, but
Oh,
you can
well,
try. You
there
can
you go.
try.
You can
I
try.
might.
Well, check out that website though, because she
Yeah.
has it's fantastic. It's a great website.
Thanks.
Anyway, well, thank you again, Melissa. I
Mwah.
really appreciate it. Mwah.
Bye,
Bye.
Kelsey. Take care.
Well, thanks again for joining us, you all. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I surely did. It was a great way to end the week. And we'll see you next week with another special guest. All right, take care.